Alrighty then, welcome on back. Today, just taking a look at some cities. This is going to be a little bit of a quick one, not going to harp too much on it. What I've done is I've looked over a couple of different cities that were looking from the 11th century all the way up to the 14th century. There's a couple of rules that seem to have been following the norm when you're building a city. People would, number one, you're going to be building a city somewhere where you've got a resource that you generally are building an economy around. This can be a valuable mineral. This can be a food source. This can be economic trade hub. It could be any kind of a route that you're using for trade. So this could be a major river source. This could be a big road system. It could be a strategic land area that has military value. There's going to be some purpose as to why the city formed. You can have a city form around a fortification. You can have it form around major villages. As the city grows, you're going to need basic utilities. One of these is going to be a garrison. Garrisons can help supplement the basic defenses. Instead of, say, putting the massive stone wall around the entirety of the city, what I've done here is I've put strategic garrison points in the southwestern and the southeastern sections of the city. What I can do with these garrisons is I can have them be more utilitarian, and I can use them as training grounds. I can use them as gathering points. They can be staging areas for calling the militia. They can also be impromptu holding areas for prisoners. Now, when you look at cities from, say, the Crusade periods, Jerusalem being a prime example, there are multiple sources that would cite the division of cities into sectors or quarters. So you have, say, the Jewish quarter, the Islamist quarter, the Christian quarter. They were separating by religion. Many other cities will separate by economic factor, such as Exeter, or later I show a map of Milan. They were separating more by the economic involvement that they had. So with Exeter, originally you had the butchering quarter, you had a textiling quarter, agricultural quarter, and administrative quarter. Milan followed very much the similar route. Now, when you look at these three cities, you also see the other common theme of their being portrayed as being ring-shaped. This might be where we get the trope in anime and isekais where the cities are being portrayed as this round, fanciful, ringed city. That may or may not be the case, but there were round cities. This is not a fantasy trope. It was very easy to go ahead and just build from the center outward. Or, in Milan's case, you had the fortification in the northern sector and you build around it. And Milan, as you can tell from here, was a major inspiration for how I was building Mareth. Once I had a good idea of where most of the buildings were going to be, such as residential, poor quarters, my economic trade areas, inns, taverns, anything that I was using to supplement trade, lodging, and anything that I knew was going to be the big focal points of this city, I went ahead, I got rid of that horrible rocky road texture. I didn't really like that. And I started putting through where these roads were. Roads are kind of a strange duck. Humans are very, very lazy. When you look at, say, Romans, we were surveying in straight lines, and we use the same techniques today. So when you're surveying out a road, it's a lot easier to go ahead and just do it in a straight line. in portions. And if it works back then, of course, we're going to do it now. When you look at maps in the modern sense, you also get the sense that people are just going to find the shortest route between 2 points, make a road there. And fortunately, a lot of the roads that we've got now, especially when you look at Central Europe and the British Isles, a lot of the roads that we have, and you probably hear the train in the back, that's great. We have these roads simply because this is just the route everyone always took. By default, that's how we're going to get a lot of these roads inside cities and in between towns. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow along with how, kind of in a backwards way, how people were getting in between buildings, finding the shortest route or the path of greatest convenience. And we're going to throw them down in sort of the lackadaisical, lazy way. And then at the end, move the buildings around to give them a little bit more uniformity, to clean up the association in between how the buildings are conforming to these roads. So some of them are going to be a little more curved, some are going to be a little more straight, but this kind of gives you the idea. Now, up here, I do have, say, we talked about Milan, we have these farms. The roads here are going to be a little longer, and they're going to be a little more on the straightforward sort of side. I'm going to push for a lot of these. They're not really compounds because they're more farmsteads. So these are people that are out here specifically working these farms that are supplementing a great amount of the food that is being consumed here in the city. That said, they're not living in the city. They're living outside of it, or should say city's edge, and they still have access to the city proper. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to decorate out because it's not barren. You're going to have foliage, you're going to have trees. Give it a little bit of flavor, little texture. And I'm going to try to keep the idea that even though this city has been here for a while, it hasn't completely stripped the landscape. I even have on this hill to the south, there's a fairly new manor that a local lord has been granted some land. And like I said, I'm gonna now come into these little sections where the roads come around. I'm gonna move buildings. I'm coming through and I'm trying to find labels, but I'm gonna move buildings and any taverns that I have that I know I want to label. I'm gonna go ahead and label them as I come through. And later on, I can have the legend over on the side or my notes, and I can label, this is this tavern or this point of interest, this point of interest. So you don't have to have all those notes cluttering up your map, but you can tag specific places on this map that you want your players, or if you're writing a book, you can quickly associate where things are. Eventually, I'm also going to be writing the names of the roads that are going to be named. And you can also tell, there are some roads are broader than others. That is for ease of access. I am going to spell out things such as named garrisons or trading quarters, specific guilds, anything that is particularly unique, but anything that's repetitious, like multiple taverns. You're going to have more than one tavern in a city. If it's a village, maybe there's 2 at the most. You're going to have competitors. Mostly it's going to be 1, I would say. But in a city, there's definitely going to be more than a few. It's going to be very competitive in the city. Up here, this is just an example of a small market. Cities are great places for trading hubs. You're going to not only have local merchandise, you're going to have imports. You're going to have things from all over the place, especially considering this city has a river to the east side where people are going to be able to come in, offload to the docks that are going to be built later, and bring all sorts of merchandise from all over the continent or even across the oceans. So if you have a city this large, you're bound to have an economy that is able to support a larger and a more diverse market. And to kind of show maybe the diversity of goods, you can add some carts, some barrels, boxes, and that gives you the idea of this is a permanent market. You can also take local markets. So these are markets that visiting folks are probably not going to know about. These are markets that are supporting local needs. This is local foodstuffs, local clothiers, or beer vendors, vegetable, meat butcheries, and those are going to be scattered around. These are the markets that they're not particularly invested in the foreign trade. But have fun when you're making these cities. Think about the people that live there and think about the lives that take part within these city walls. But that is where we're going to leave you. Enjoy the time that you've got and have fun when you're making these towns and cities. Until next time, be safe and be blessed.
If you want to see more of the world as you follow along in this series, consider purchasing the author's book, Hero of Oria, available in print and digital format.
In sketches grow, come and weave this tapestry with me. How will it all end? We do not know. Let's fly over stains of blackened mountains, hills, and trees. Take an inky swim through rivers, lakes, and streams. Don't care where you've been, and don't care how long, but as long as you're here, come along. Through the valleys where the rivers run, painting tales, looking for an ending. Draw the night and await the morning sun. Together our path leads round the bend. Untraveled roads rarely leave you guessing. Search the skies, your stars are shining. Find your way and see a new horizon. Journeys only end after beginning. I know you can fly over stains of blackened mountains, hills, and trees. Take an inky swim through rivers, lakes, and streams. Don't care where you're going, how long you'll be away. I will be right here, and here I'll stay.